Governor and 2016 presidential candidate Chris Christie announced a sweeping public pension reform in his budget address yesterday. Have a listen.
Now we have a bipartisan reform plan which can, once and for all, fix this problem. No one branch of government can wish or order the problem away.
Manhattan Institute Steve Malanga joins us now. Steve, Chris Christie has been governor since 2011.
2010.
2010. Even worse. So why did it take him this long to address the pension problem, for real?
Well, of course, he addressed it once in 2011, but he and the Democratic legislature accepted the optimistic projections for the reform they did in 2011, even though many, many people, independent analysts, were warning that it was not going to be enough, that all they were doing was buying themselves time.
And you were among those independent analysts.
And that's exactly what has happened. And now they've had to go back, and some of us have been saying for a long time that the New Jersey's pension problems are so deep that you can't really save the current system at a reasonable price. And now the governor is actually suggesting freezing the current system and starting something new. If he does this, it'll be among the more radical.
What is that something new? What is he proposing?
Well, interesting, and you know, he didn't go into great detail with his speech on this. That's for others to do, and it's going to be very complex. But it's basically essentially freezing the defined benefit plan, moving those credits over for people who already have them, but then starting something else, which is a kind of a 401k style defined contribution plan. They call it a cash balance plan. We haven't seen the details. There are numerous details that have to come out, and they're still in negotiation with the unions. Who, just by the fact that they're negotiating, suggests that they understand that they risk losing their pensions if they don't do something.
Is that really the risk here, Steve, that they would get nothing if this reform doesn't go through?
Well, not nothing, but clearly what's happening is this state is in a tremendous squeeze. And if you look at the actual calculations, within 3 or 4 years, they'd have to be putting $5 billion a year out of their budget into the pension system to save it. The New Jersey budget's only $34 billion. The money just is not there. And what's happening now already is that as they are putting more money into pensions, just a little bit more, they're not being able to give raises to people. They're cutting back on health benefits, and they're not investing in things like infrastructure. So the whole state is going to suffer.
Is this a political calculation, too, by Governor Christie, who, let's be honest, has to have some sort of record to run on if he wants to run for president in 2016? I mean, what has he accomplished to date?
Well, I would say he's accomplished a couple of things. He did do some serious municipal reforms in New Jersey. He hasn't raised taxes after a blizzard, 8-year, $5 billion of Democratic taxes. Just not raising taxes in New Jersey for 5 years with the Democratic legislature is a little bit of an accomplishment.
But the state still stinks. You look at job creation, unemployment, yes. It's a terrible place.
But again, he's got a Democratic legislature that passed a minimum wage bill over his veto. So, you know, he's really struggling. In fairness to him, okay, he doesn't have a Republican legislature. But also, he's miscalculated, and he's missed, especially with his pensions, and so he's been on the defensive. So it's a mixed bag in terms of grading him. And this has nothing to do, I mean, at some point, it's not just about running for president. It's about actually saying that you saved the state that was in such dire condition after 20 years of mismanagement.
If this reform goes through, will it be the most sweeping pension reform?
It would certainly be among them, because in half of our states, you can't even change pensions for current workers. This would be something beyond what virtually every state has done.
Well, we'll see how he does. Steve Malanga, thanks for being on the show.